There we go. From March 25th to order. Madam Secretary, all members present with the exception of Councilman Turner. If everyone please stand, we'll have the invocation led by Mr. Ken Dawson, followed immediately by the pledge.
Let us pray. Father, again, we thank you for the graces that you bestowed upon us, all the blessing and protection that you've given us, the blessing that you bestowed upon Ascension Parish, and we thank you for the opportunity to lead. Father, we pray now for those that have lost us in this time. Ricky DeArmond, for the loss of his brother, Janice Brown, dear God, for the loss of her father. And Father, we also pray for Kim Bro for the loss of her brother-in-law. We pray, Father, that you minister to those families and bring healing during this time of need. We give you all the glory and praise for all that you do for us. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it. Chair's addition. There's no additions tonight. Public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item can sign in with the secretary, and they'll be given 3 minutes at the time when that item comes up on the agenda. Item number 5 is a motion to approve the minutes of the December 2nd meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Motion by Councilman Sadler, second by Councilman Joseph. Any discussion? Any opposition? Motion passes. Update on the Highway 73 and 42 projects. Mr. Bob Horner.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Highway 42, we have a consultant that is currently underway with the design of a force main system and a treatment system that will be located up at the Oak Grove School, and that is scheduled to be completed with design in about 30 to 45 days in that time frame. Another addition that we've have under design is a portion of an extension of the gravity sewer from Highway 44 east over to Muddy Creek Drive. We currently have that under contract as well with a consultant who's finishing up the design on that in about the same time frame. The project is rated on the DOTD checklist at about 58% complete, which is about where we show the gravity lines. We still have the force mains that are going to be installed, and then the equipment for the lift stations, as well as, of course, the force main up to the Oak Grove is a separate item from the DOTD contract. But the contractor and DOTD are currently working out some requests that they have for time delays. But as of now, DOTD shows it as being completed around the end of August.
That's on the sewer portion of that project.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Which is dovetailed into their clearing and grubbing piece. Okay. On Highway 73, the gravity sewer is all installed. The testing is completed of the air testing and mandrel tests, and I think that I saw where they have one tail line or lateral service that they're yet to connect. We're getting the lift station online that will pump the tail line effluent into the Grand Gudine, and then we're working also currently with a treatment provider to be able to accept raw sewage into that as soon as we can bring it online, because we're, in addition, talking currently with 3 new developments along there that are interested in tying into us just as quickly as they can. So we're working with those developments and that treatment agreement as well.
All right. Mr. Dawson?
Yeah, just to add on that, Mr. Chairman, as was directed by this committee and the council, the goal was to try to acquire as many customers as possible by entering into these agreements to ensure that we don't give customers away. So this process is underway. There's a lot of work that's happening because, as you know, there's a lot of growth in Ascension. So there are a lot of developments that are coming online. So in those discussions, we are making sure that we have input into what they will do as far as treatment, If they build a plant, as the ordinance says, it would be donated to us, or the developer has to keep it themselves. Well, all the developers have been working with us to cascade that to an existing plant through an agreement that we're working with, or they would build it and donate it to us. So that's where some of this is going, what was discussed on 73. That's one of the first ones that we were doing, so that process is moving along well.
Okay. Mr. Joseph?
Yes, Kent or Bob, I remember back when we first started this, and the numbers were very small. Are those numbers going to immediately tap into that system, or are they right now, whenever it's completed?
Yeah, on the 73 you talked about, Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, on the 73, the initial thing was to deal with the tail lines that were going on in 73. The approval that Mr. Horner just talked about to discharge to the Goudin, that was based on those tail lines, because we have a discharge permit that allows us to do that. When we're increasing the number of discharge into the system, we had to determine another way to treat that particular waste. So the increase in the number of customers is being due to the relationships that we're making with existing providers to be able to increase that number. So that whenever we start to put the main line down 73, whenever something like that happens for the parish, we won't have to go back and purchase customers. Those customers will already be ours.
Okay.
Councilman Sally?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This question goes to you, Bob. You mentioned the lift station that's soon to go online to pump to the Goudin, and Councilman Joseph, I think, just referenced as well. Can you, first of all, that, 73, most people probably know, goes directly smack dab, cuts my district in half. So the folks there are eager, obviously, to have the road and all that stuff completed because they've been inconvenienced so long. Will any of the subdivisions off of 73 be affected with this lift station situation, like Seven Oaks, Longwood, Renaissance Village, Southwood Village?
At present, there are no immediate discharges of their tail lines into the right-of-way of 73, which are what we really geared on so that DOTD could move forward quickly with their road project.
So the folks in that area that are still going through density will still go through density?
Yes. Now, the option is always there as these other developments are coming online and are learning about it, and we're more than willing to talk with any of the providers that might want to take advantage of the availability there, but
Well,
for right now,
when you talk
there's
about
no.
other developments, that's new developments. So say, for example, I don't know, recently the Planning and Zoning Commission, I think, gave preliminary plat approval to, I may get this wrong, Dutchtown of Hollows, or Hollows of Dutchtown?
Yes, that's
Kinda
one of
backwards.
the,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
one of the three.
So those guys, for example, could immediately be put into the system.
And that's one of the three developments that we're speaking to.
And would we then have paying customers there?
Yes, sir.
That's
And-
excellent.
And that's about I believe about a 200 lot development that's,
I believe it's like 197 in the first filing.
right.
and Or the combined first and second filing, so
Right.
it's a good bit of sewage to start with. But, well, thank you very much.
you bet.
Anyone else? All right, President Martinez.
Yes, basically, what's happening, we passed the ordinance, okay, and we are basically telling these people they have to give us the systems. So we take the systems, but we don't have our sewer plant ready, or so we have to deal with an existing sewer treatment system that's in the area, so we have to deal with one of the private owners. So basically, we've created an ordinance, and we tell them that they have to give us the sewer plant, but we really, at this point, don't have a place to put it. So we've been entering into an agreement with these folks to let them treat the sewage at this point, but the customers, they'll continue paying. Some of them will continue paying, such as Ascension wastewater, or whoever it is in the area, and then as soon as we come online, those customers will automatically become ours. So we've got a set of contracts that we worked with. So we created the ordinance, but we wasn't really ready to get into the business at this point.
Councilman Sadler?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. President. And, the idea that we don't have a sewer plant ready, I see though is going to be covered in the next item, and I'm sure at that point you're going to be telling us we've secured or about, well, not secured, that'd be too quick, but you found some property and so forth so that we can make that ordinance a lot more useful than it currently is, right? Okay, well, we'll see. It's a good segue for the chairman, we'll see.
Okay. Moving on, agenda item number 7, updates on land purchase for sewer. I got that under you and Neil, but I don't know if you want to punt
Well,
that
I'll take
to.
it on. I mean, we have not, because as soon as we were directed to negotiate with one property owner, there's opposition that arose to it. And so we started looking for other alternatives, and we have not been able to find any yet. I mean, at this point in time, we don't have a place to build a sewer plant.
Yeah, one of the things that O'Neill's alluding to is a group arose in opposition to the current property, but we also, in the interim, in talking to Mr. Gasafi about some potential moving the exact location of where the plant is, there was another piece of land that would be even more optimum that kind of, we heard around about, and we're trying to make inquiries as to availability of that property, at least administration was. And through a lot of effort, negotiation, and contact back and forth, unfortunately, we haven't made much headway on it, and there's a purchase agreement on that piece of property. So we're kind of holding to see if that piece of property would actually become available to us, to see if we can move on it. And in the interim, we're going to try to work with that group and answer any questions that they have about what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish, and looking forward to contact with one of the representatives sometime this week so we can move forward on that as well. And if we can, we're working multiple angles. We want to try to make sure that we do the right thing and we put it in the right location, and for the betterment of the entire parish, and that's what we're going to committed to do. And talking with the parish president, and myself, that's the conversation we've had. So we want to make sure we do the best we can with this thing. So that's kind of where we are with the property. But the reason we put it up on the agenda tonight, just kind of give an update, because we haven't done anything in a while on it. And we just wanted the people to know the reason we hadn't started negotiations on the first piece of property was because we had the other property come up, and we were trying to, since we had some questions about the location of that first piece of property, if there was any locations in relation to, under the same landowner, we might be able to move our potential purchase to. And so we're working all those different angles. I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Mr. President, or?
We actually, the first people we contacted was the people that we're still trying to negotiate with on the river.
Right.
They were the first ones, and we worked through their attorney, but unfortunately, they had problems with what we wanted to locate there in the beginning. And since then, they have a purchase order on the property. So we've looked at every possible parcel of land from the Mississippi River to back to 74, and haven't found anything yet. We've spoken to Methanex. We've talked to was it Rubicon, Borden, everybody around, and nobody's willing to sell any property to us at this point. We re-looked at the property Mr. Gasafi has, and basically what he has is on highway, same location pretty much, is on 73, and the one on 30, the area there is all sold, and the middle of his property hasn't been subdivided yet. So that's where the problem is. I mean, if any, I don't think there's going to be any property along that corridor that we can purchase, and if we go right, we're going back toward Iberville. I don't think we're going to have a whole lot of success that way either. And if we go left, there's talk about going maybe to Lamar Dixon, where we have 40 acres from BASF, but I'm sure that's going to be cost prohibitive to run that much line and that many lift stations to get there. It's not a problem if we, it's probably going to be add quite a few millions to what we projected. So that's where we're at today. That's about as good an update as I can give you about property.
Right. So in per our conversations we've had in the past as well, is that the further you go away from the 73, 40, 30 corridor, the more expensive it gets. The further south or east you go, you run into a problem with access to the river. Even at Lamar Dixon, if we do put the site there, you're winding up renting space in a line from the city because we don't have right of way and we don't have direct access to the Mississippi River. And if you go further north or west towards Iberville Parish, you're adding a substantial amount of cost with no guarantee that you're gonna have access to the river from there either. So ultimate is to try to keep it in there, and if we can work with Mr. Grisafi to get some more of that property subdivided and push it a little bit further off of Highway 73, that's about the best we can potentially hope for in that particular area, but that may be what we're left with. So we're still talking, and it's not stopped, but you know, we want to move forward. Randy, you had something that you want to?
Yeah, Councilman Johnson and committee, I know Councilman Turner's not here, and he did have a community meeting that he had some concerned community members, whereas you probably have that in any community.
That's right.
And that's just due diligence and good outreach by the community of what's going on around them. I would like to extend, I know we've talked about this, as this committee has went and visited other sewer treatment plants, very efficient, very clean, good treatment plants, that this is not going to be the first community that we end up with a treatment plant in as we move forward into the future. And I would welcome, you know, representative of that community or you know, folks that have serious concern that we set up some kind of outreach to maybe take a visit by a few folks to these plants, the different types. There's several types of plants that's looked at. You know, you've made all the visits, and I think, Doc, you've made them, and all the rest of you guys, and that we have some opportunity to let Councilman Turner and his folks see exactly what the plant's about, and what's the negatives of having one within your area. Definitely, if the Grisafi land moving further in would be an option right now, that would be a great option. I know the parish president and everybody's working hard, but like I said, we got a piece of land that we want to look at further that way. There's not an option on it right now. It's not even in a plot. I do know that along the corridor that they worked hard on every piece of land there is along the Mississippi River. One thing that we do have to face as a public entity, we've got only so much money to spend, and even making a great option toward a piece of land on the river, we don't compete with industry's ability to leverage those lands. And there's just not a lot left that's personally owned on the river that's feasible within our area. So I'm just saying, I would like to not give up. Let's continue to look and take a look at that piece of land and the options. If we could have some of the community members, concerned members, that feel strongly about it, take a look at some other sewer plants and just see what they're all about. And then if it is a negative to them, then they can see what it is.
Yeah, and that's our plan, Randy. We've made some contact with one of the representatives, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Councilman Turner. We're going to definitely sit down and talk with him, as well as some representatives of that group, and kind of go through what we've done, some public meetings in the past, and have open a dialogue, and potentially, if they're willing to take a trip and go look at the particular treatment systems that I believe the majority of this body is kind of leaning towards, that's definitely going to be on the table to do that. So, Councilman Sally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Councilman Kluwat, for your comments. And in fact, I would like to, if I may, elaborate a little bit further on that. I want to be sure everybody out there that may be watching is not here tonight understands that when Mr. Parrington talks about this opposition that arose to it, he's talking about the Grisafi property, correct?
Yes.
On 70 and 30. And we need to remind everyone, including this committee and the other council members who may view this meeting later, that we as a full council authorized our parish president to go out and negotiate a price on that land. After that fact, I think it's important from an historical standpoint to point out this, and I'm not discounting it in any way. I wasn't there, but they had the church meeting, and 3 councilmen, 2 who aren't here tonight and another who's sitting here in this committee, pledged their support of what I call, and I didn't name this, it's in all the newspapers all around the country, the NIMBY principle, not in my backyard. We all want sewer, but we don't want the plant next to us. That said, I think Councilman Kluat spoke many words of wisdom here tonight, in that if you would have been on those tours, and he mentioned my name specifically, I made every one of them in the state of Mississippi and Louisiana, which, Mr. Chairman, I think numbered 5, 6, whatever. And I was impressed, and I could show you films on this government cell phone right here of the effluent water coming out of those plants. It looks like drinking water. And there was no smell at any of the plants. And I see Mr. Dawson nod his head, well, we went. Now, I don't know how close that plant would be on the exact property that we're talking about there to the nearest house or anything like that, but I think, as Mr. Kluat said, eventually, for the betterment of the whole community, and I've heard that a lot in 3 years of service from many different councilmen. I'll keep names out of it. Quality of life. Sometimes a few people are going to have to do with a little bit less, for, maybe even suffer a little bit, although I don't think there'll be much suffering here at all. These plants, by the way, even cosmetically look nice. They throw big fences up, and they just look really, really good. I mean, I think there's too much of a stereotypic image of sewer treatment plants from days gone by compared to what's out there now. So I would like to see us definitely not abandon it. And also, let's put on the table, there's that state revolving fund loan out there for $60 million, 0.9592, whatever it is, Tommy, percent interest for several decades. We seem now to have gotten over the hoop that we have the money to do it. I, for one, would absolutely hate to see us lose that opportunity. Gonzales, for example, I read in the media, took advantage of it to the tune of $15 million recently in their own city. I don't think the parish can afford to let that go. So if we can educate, as Randy said, Councilman Kluat said, or whatever, about the smell situation, the clarity of the water and so forth and so on, and we can save, as the president said, a lot of money. I think what I heard was the property, I thought we're coming here tonight to say everything was hunky-dory at the river. Sounds like it's not, because there's a purchase agreement the president said on that property, and you can't compete with that, I guess, unless it was to fall through. But we're gonna have to put this somewhere. And another thing, as we continue to grow, and well, we will, right? I don't think anyone denies that. It's gonna get harder and harder and harder to find a place to put anything. You think it's bad now, you say, oh, this council constantly says that. Let's wait 5, 10 more years and see if you're ever gonna do it. Folks, we need to do this, and we need to do it now. I would ask a simple question, maybe no one can answer this tonight. Are we in jeopardy of losing this SRF loan if we can't find this plant situation? Is the loan dependent upon that? Maybe, Mr. President, you make remarks on that.
Yeah, well, the whole thing is that before you can do anything, you got to give them a location. So we held up on every aspect by not having a location. So that's going to be, we can't do any of our paperwork because that's the first thing to ask you. So are we in jeopardy? To answer your question, I'm sure at some point in time we will be in jeopardy. But I think we still got a little bit of time to negotiate, and hopefully we can come up with a solution and find a spot to locate in. And I think once we get to that point, we've got a lot of the other work done.
So is it fair to say, I'm hearing in the rumor mill is just that if we don't do something before the summer, there's a significant chance that we may not be able to close on that loan at all?
This year?
This year,
Probably
yes, sir.
not, no. I would say that's a correct and accurate statement.
So we don't have a lot of time for this education process that Mr. Kluat's described, et cetera. And I want to thank you, Mr. President, for bringing this back to this committee, because, it's no secret you and I have talked outside. There was a picture about that ran to Creo, actually. And that's what we're talking about, sewer. And I asked you then, what are we gonna do since that church meeting? And you said, well, I'm gonna bring it back to you. You guys told me to go ahead, and now you're telling me not. And I'll tell the world right now what I told you in response was, I don't know who you guys are. Because when the full council tells you to go out and do something, I think it empowers you with a mandate versus when, and I don't mean make light again of the church meeting, the 3 individuals involved in that, but they would have voted with that full council. Now there's concern. I hope, I don't believe this is the case, but I hope we're not being political here, and we're totally doing what's best for the entire community, Ascension Parish, that we get this modified P16 system off the ground. We not lose that loan. Whatever it takes, we need to go forward. and not let that imaginary or perhaps real deadline happen. I mean, we gave Dr. Peeney, everybody knows it, right there at that podium months ago, a plaque. And his superior, his boss, was excited and thought we could even, I know the chairman says instead of, whatever the time frame was, 10 months, could we even close quicker? Well, it depended on this, this, and this. Now I'm hearing it's dependent upon, from your words, Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, at this meeting, we have to have a site, and I think that's reasonable. I wouldn't loan you any money if you don't know what the heck you're building your plant. So let's get it, guys. Let's do it. Thank y'all for listening.
I think that conversation said, are you giving up? I heard you and Benny Johnson are giving up on sewer. I said, no, we're not giving up on sewer. We haven't found a place, and we're gonna continue to try. And hopefully we can do that. Hopefully we can find a spot that's amicable to everyone. But again, time will run out at some point. We don't have a blank check on this.
Councilman Boyd?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I feel that it would be frankly irresponsible at this point to pull down the SRF loan without having a plan. How quickly we forget at the last Utilities Committee meeting that we have zero, basically, revenue. Customers that if we build out the plant, build out the lines, we still don't have a customer base. It would be completely irresponsible in my mind to move forward and have a $3 million per year plus debt that we can't make up because we don't have customers. It comes back to that. So we need a business plan. We have started talking about public-private partnerships at that meeting. So it's not about NIMBY. I understand that no one is going to want a plant in their backyard. It's about how financially responsible is it when we're scratching for every dollar we can for roads, that we're going to pull down a loan, build the plant, wherever that may be, and not have customers, and lose $3 million a year out of the general fund that could go to roads. That to me is irresponsible. I'm all about sewer and getting it done. I want to have a business plan that makes sense. I've since had some other discussions about public-private partnerships and other alternative plans that may mean we don't even have the plant where we're currently fixated on. I'm not saying I'm not open to other options, but I'm not interested in moving forward on anything related to sewer until I have a business plan that makes sense. Thank you.
Councilman Joseph, let's go.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go back to Chairman Cloat plan, and I'm gonna ask that Parish President let Channel 21, our channel, and his television audio people go out there and film those plants, interview some people who live in the community, and do a story on it. I mean, Morgan City is one, and they're very close to population. Lake Charles is another one, the plant we're talking about. And like we say, let's educate the public. I mean, I understand that nobody want them around their neighborhood. But if we do everything we're supposed to do and educate people and they make their decision, we done our job. And so, if anything, I would request this committee to ask the president to let his administration go down there and do a story on them and show it on Channel 21. Yeah, that's my input.
Thank you. Councilman Sadler?
Yeah, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Joseph, for your comments. I'm obviously a big fan of education. I think we can jump that hurdle easily. But back to what Councilman Lohr had to say, Chris, I certainly agree with you that we need to have a business plan, whether that's a public-private partnership or whatever form the creature takes. That notwithstanding, however, I have to repeat, we did vote, yourself included, sir, to empower the parish president to go forward to secure the best property price on the Grazaffe property. I really wish the idea beyond, if you say it's beyond NIMBY, because that occurred after that vote, that it's irresponsible to go forward, period, because we don't have the money. I think every member of this committee, although you weren't involved in it for the first several years as a newcomer, I'm certain you heard, knows that we don't have the customers. It didn't take Mr. Horner's report to tell us that. And we can't, create them and so forth. But I would disagree. Does that mean we don't get started? As these new ones we just learned from Dutchtown House come online, or as we negotiate further with existing companies to get these customers and/or enter into private, public partnership, et cetera. I'll tell you what's irresponsible, and I'll just call it for what it is. Voting to do something and then just totally changing your mind for a reason you never expounded to start with. I just don't understand that. Lamar Dixon may be Mr. Martinez's pet project, is what it's been called, and I think Tommy would agree with that. At least he's done it with me in private conversations. Sewer in Prairieville and parish-wide, you can hear it right now, is a pet project for Doc Satterley. I didn't have it, as I bet everyone in this dais had it on my push card 3 years ago, along with roads as a top priority, for us to do another election cycle and say, well, guess what? Friends and neighbors, we still haven't improved. Well, that's not fair. We've improved our roads, but not given you what we said, and we've, in the taxing, failed in that, et cetera. I'm trying to mix that into this. But now on sewer too, when again, that carrot's dangling out there, that $60 million, 0.95% state loan. So I'm gonna be real strong on this one and just say, please, if anybody has any more reservations whatsoever beyond an educational process or whatever, and I think the president's probably, along with our lead engineering firm and Chairman Johnson, are looking to every possible, I've heard names, I'm not asking to bring that in tonight, of potential partners that I wouldn't call them lined up, but I've been given every assurance that they might be willing to take us on, and we can get beyond that hurdle that Mr. Lohr's talking about as well. But again, we need to get started, and we need to get started now. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
I'll say this, guys, and not to drag this on any longer, but the vote that was taken to give the administration the ability to go forward and do the negotiation was done. Shortly thereafter, two things cropped up, very short time frame, okay? Yes, there was a meeting held in the Geismar area, but also not too long after that, we heard about the property potential at River Road and 73. And one thing we've always said from the time I've gotten on this committee and working this problem is that we want to have as least amount of impact on the community as possible. And we've all agreed that the place to have that least amount of impact is somewhere between Highway 30 and the river. Unfortunately, that hasn't been the opportunity, or that opportunity hasn't arisen. Now, after we took that vote, I think in conversations I had with the parish president and Mr. Dawson, this other opportunity came up, and it was worth us taking the time to run that to the ground. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen as quick as what we would like for it to have happened, but we would have done, in my opinion, disservice not to look into if that property was available to us and not take full advantage of it. Unfortunately, 6 weeks, 7 weeks after all of that, maybe even longer, they've entered into another purchase agreement with someone else on it. There was some, and Mr. O'Neill, if I start saying something I ain't supposed to, stop me. But basically, there was one member of the family that was opposed to a
Sewer treatment
waste
facility
treatment
on the
facility going on that property, but from what we understood, the rest of the family wasn't. So we were working with that family, trying to overcome that one individual to be able to get it to where it's more advantageous for us to do it. But at the end of the day, roundabout way, someone else got in there behind us and signed a purchase agreement for it. And like Councilman Kluwat had stated, we're not going to be able to compete from a financial standpoint of view with big industry. So we were doing the best we could with what we had, and I commend Parish President for taking that option, because again, at the end of the day, the least amount of impact we have on the people of the parish, the better off we are. But we cannot do that at the detriment of the potential for the $60 million loan. We are right now at a point to where we do not have, end of the summer, end of this year, and from what I understand in our conversations with DEQ, we're not in any immediate danger of losing that potential loan. So we have some time frame to go in there and work these things and try to get it out. But at the end of the day, in conversating and trying to, and once that other property fell through, now we want to go through and try to make sure that we have these conversations with this other group and make sure that they understand why we're doing what we're doing. But I'll stand up right now and say it. If there's no better property to do it, I'll support purchasing the property that we're looking at. But I also want to make sure that we go out there and we do this thing right. And not only for the system in itself, but also for the people that we represent. And so up to the point where it's detrimental that we may lose that potential for the $60 million loan, we're going to look, in my opinion, and that's what I will support. And so, other than that, there's nothing trying to go out and put anybody in any detriment or anything else, but educate the people that's there, get them to understand what the technology is available today, what we can do, why it's different from what it was in the past. And if we take an extra 3 or 4 weeks to do that, I don't see the harm in it. And it's not a political statement to get that done. It's a matter of, I would think we would do that due diligence for anybody. Mr. Cluart, you had something real quick?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to say that, you know, the timeline in which to try to close the loan, the preliminary engineering report, the EID, all those things is necessary and required. Environmental studies and those kind of things, that it's just not enough time to get that done before the end of this year. It's just, you know, virtually impossible without having the location. One of the main things that you had to have, even though we did a lot of things initially because we had our different areas that we had identified, we did a lot of things and took another report to make sure that we collapsed the timeline as much as possible. But you have to have the location of the property in order to, you know, to move forward. So that's going to be, you know, problematic to get it done. It's just, you know, the time is crunched on us. The second thing, under the direction of President Martinez, we did send a letter to DEQ telling them where we were with the land and that kind of thing, so that we wanted to keep them informed. As you know, the relationship between DEQ and the parish has been great. As you stated, we had Secretary Hatch and Deputy Secretary Peening here, you know, in these chambers, and they're still supportive of what we're trying to do. But in speaking with them, you know, they can't hold it forever. Okay, they can't. But they were glad to know that where we were, and we informed them this is where we are with the land, and we haven't settled where that location is as of yet. So they appreciated that. To the point that they even want to come back in the parish and visit and look at where the 2 potential locations we were thinking about. They had scheduled it a few weeks ago, but they had a conflict, so they're planning another trip to come in and just kind of look at what we're trying to do.
Councilman Cluart?
Committee members, as I stand between Councilman Lower's position and Councilman Satterley's position, that one thing I want to reinforce to my peers, let's not lose focus of the mission. Why did we start on this 3 years ago? This is not the first time I've had this little short speech. We got crap in the water that runs downstream, okay? We're trying to clean it up. Our best goal, and it was the goal of people even prior to our administration, and probably the 3rd round for parish president, that the goal is to capture as much dirty water going into the streams and channel it to the Mississippi River. Get it out of the streams, however you get it. Truck it, pump it to the river, whatever you got to do. All right? That was our goal. Now, we're under some sanctions. That's going to come to fruition in years to come. Now, I might not be here, but it's going to happen sooner or later if everybody starts following the laws from the federal government on down, and it's not getting any simpler. So our goal is to take it out of the streams, put it into the Mississippi River, where DEQ and everybody else wants it. Looking at those goals, it was always the point, what do you want to do when you do that? You go out and you capture the best bang for your dollar, which is the P16 area. You know, so it's that northern part of the parish, which encompasses Councilman Satterley, Councilman Lower, Councilman Cazzo, and becoming part of Councilman Dempsey Lambert's district, and moving down a little bit into yours, Benny, now. You know, that's and Todd's. So we have not seen, Councilman Lower has a great point in the business plan. We have not seen a great business plan to independently get into sewer for ourselves and carry this thing through. I think that the future is public-private partnership. But I think we can handle this loan if we can find some way to get this land. So like I said, we've got hard, we're challenged, we represent people, so we're challenged with hard decisions sometimes. So if we don't take this opportunity, we've heard so many times about, we talked about this 20 years ago when none of us were serving. And Parish President Martinez was a council member at that time. But I mean, so we gotta, don't lose focus of the mission. That mission is to get it out of the ditches, out of the canals, and move it to the Mississippi River. And the best bang for our dollars is to get the most populated areas moving forward. And there's all kind of intricate details to dealing with the private companies and integrating them into our system, or us integrating into their system on a short time. This is not going to be a one-way thing, and it's going to be a moving target. And I totally agree with Chris's frugality about we got to pay this money back. We have invested a great deal of money in Highway 73 and 42 based on the state's regulations when they building the road about where, you know, we had that opportunity to put those sewer trunk lines down. And that's great. That's not bad. It had to happen. They were rebuilding the roads. We got it down there. So that was money well spent that somebody's gonna be able to live with it in the future. But, you know, I don't want to move away from that area where you guys, it's going to help you guys, but it's going to take the sewer out the streams that are coming down to my area and the lower parts of the parish and some of the other waterways that we all enjoy. So let's don't lose focus of the mission. It's not an easy task. And I sat on your board, so you're looking at 5 right here. Well, we're all going to be facing it when it gets to the council, and it will come to the council at some point. Thank you.
All right, moving on to item number 8, treatment agreement for Oak Grove plant. Mr. Dawson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to give you an update on the agreement for Oak Grove plant, as you know, what we're doing down Highway 42 is we have to capture those tail lines as well. The Oak Grove system is with the, of course, is with the school system. It's a plant located there that makes it advantageous to take that flow in that area. We had a meeting along with the president and a couple of representatives from the school board met, and they are very interested in not only us handling treatment there, but they kind of want to get out of the waste treatment business, and that's something that we're looking at as well. So that process is moving forward. The final survey was complete just today, Bob. I think it was today or yesterday. So the location where it needs to go so that the agreement can be finalized is underway. So I think it's a good test case as we move forward with developing a relationship in the line of waste treatment between us and the school board.
All right. Any questions on that? And Mr. Bob alluded to this one earlier on number 9, but the Highway 42 project, the design from Muddy Creek to Highway 44. Anything else you want to add to that, Mr. Bob? Okay. Then we go on to item number 10, a discussion of the chlorine burn. Mr. Dawson.
Yeah, Mr. Bolello, by the way, is on vacation, so I'm having to kind of field a bunch of these items. What we did on the chlorine burn, initially we were looking at the location being at the line of entrance from St. James. I mean, that became problematic on several venues. One is the okay of the piece of property, you know, to give us the piece of property to be able to locate it there. Second thing, I was a little concerned about the safety. You're going to have a pumping station there that has ammonia and chlorine. Chlorine private gas cylinders or sodium hypochlorite at the least. They're pumping into it, and not a lot of protected barriers around it. So what we did, we asked the question, could we relocate the actual feed at the tower site? It's already protected. It's not outside a fence. It's not, the traffic can't get to it. So that's where we headed with it at this particular point. A couple of things may have to be added there, which we need control systems anyway. There may have to be a control valve that's installed so that you can look at the flow and that kind of thing, which we've got to have in the system eventually anyway as we move towards telemetry. So I just want to let you know that that is still moving forward, but we are changing the location and putting it as something in the area where the tower is. Second thing is for long-term utilization, it's better for it to be there anyway, because as we move forward, we can continue to feed biocide to the system itself and use it, to kind of augment our feed as we move forward.
And Ken, basically, we're doing all that as a recap for the citizens who may kind of just be catching in this, is that to meet the new standards for water treatment in dealing with the brain-eating amoeba that they've had issues with in other areas, that we've got to get these treatments in there and keep our chlorine residuals up. So we've got some dead spots or something in the lines where we've got to go through and do this chlorine burn to get that treatment level up into the whole system.
Yes, sir.
Is what we're doing.
And by the way, there have been no testing with DHA. TAQ has not shown any indication of brain-eating amoeba in the waters of Ascension Parish on the two systems that serve us, and that's from St. James and Assumption. The second thing is the chlorine residuals have gone up. You know, during the winter months, they improve anyway. But I think that because we have excessive feed and keeping those levels up, I think it starts to keep and kind of clean the system up a little bit anyway. So we've been seeing a kind of a reduced need of flushing because we're getting more chlorine residual down towards the end of the line. So, you know, we see some improvement there.
Mr. Joseph?
And Mr. Dawson, we also, since you said the word flushing, we're starting, matter of fact, I wrote some of the lines this past weekend, and I seen some new flushing devices.
Yes.
So,
Yes, sir. Yeah, Mr. Joseph, what we have some automatic flushing valves, and through a grant, basically, we've been able to purchase a lot of equipment of the type so that we can improve the operability and monitoring and operation of our system. So yeah, those flushing valves have been put in, which makes it a whole lot easier in actually being able to augment the flushing and control what's happening there, okay? So yes, sir, we do have some.
Moving on to item number 11, the update on the Assumption Water Connection.
The Assumption Water Connection through basically some funding that, not this year, but past year, when President Martinez and a few of others were up in D.C., there was some money from the Corps that allow us to do some initial designs, okay? We have the Corps that's actually looking at the connection from the Assumption water side to our system, which would give us better quality water, better pressures, and that kind of thing. So just to tell you that design is probably close to 60 to 70% being complete with the Corps, and it gives us the opportunity to connect to the Assumption water system. So that is, I think, in another several weeks, and that design will be at 95 to 100% complete.
Okay. Mr. Joseph?
yeah, and this design is very important for hurricane and disaster times, spills in the river or anything like that. This connection here would give that community over there a water source from from St. James, Assumption, and also the private water company, People Water Company. So there will, if anything occurred that way, we would have a source of water, some kind of way to connect in. So this is very important for that community.
Okay. Moving on to item number 12, the ACUD One new accounting software.
Yeah, I'm just going to hit this briefly. This was something that was mentioned at our ACUD #1 meeting that I wanted to make sure that this committee know about. There's a different billing system, and Mr. Joseph understands this. We had a lot of issues with the old billing system. It just would not allow you the flexibility to generate the type of reports you needed, to query the information that you needed, and to kind of assess billing history of customers and not repaying, that kind of thing. So the new system, it seems to be very user-friendly. It can easily generate specialized reports, and at this point, all the data has been transferred to the new system, and at this time, we're waiting on accounting and the finance department. They're going to go ahead and start using this to kind of do a first set of bills and compare it to how it looks to the old, because we don't want to make that switch until we make sure everything is correct. So it's looking real good, and it's saving a lot of time, and it's giving us the ability to generate what we need to do to perform better operation, understanding cash flow and where money's going. So it's a good deal.
Mr. Joseph?
Mr. Dawson, are you gonna, I know we're talking about it tonight, are you gonna send the customers to let them know that this bill and how to read it and all that other stuff, or at least a little guidelines when they expect them? Because I don't want to get the phone calls. They got a new
Make
water
sure that
bill. They
happens.
didn't pay their water bill, and so
Yes,
at least
sir.
give them a little heads up on that, please, in writing to
Yes,
them.
sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well,
All righty. Item 13, update on the purchased equipment through the Community Water Enrichment Fund.
Let me hit this real quick, and I'll probably shoot this to you guys too. The Water Enrichment Fund is a fund that allows us to basically get grants to purchase the equipment. Some of those systems, meters and flows and those valves you were talking about, Councilman Joseph, were purchased by it. You know, looking at this list, probably close to $150,000 to $200,000 of equipment that we normally would have to purchase ourselves to improve the operation of the system have been purchased through the CWEF fund. So we're continuing to utilize that. And initially, we were kind of figuring out what we're going to do with it, but now we have a path. We are getting the type of equipment, the things that's needed to improve the system, operability, and I think we're even looking at possibly some telemetry that we're going to be utilizing with this fund also. So I just want to let you guys know that we are moving forward with it, the purchases that have been made, and I will probably just have them to email you the list of what has been purchased with it and what has been installed.
All righty. Item 14, update on the Pontchartrain grant for testing of local waterways.
Yes,
Mr. Bob?
I'll try and fill in for Stephen here, and he leaves some pretty big shoes, but the Pontchartrain sampling that we've been doing was a grant to help supplement the Lake Pontchartrain Basin Foundation's database. So what we've done is taken quarterly readings, samples around the parish, which is the headwaters of a lot of the streams and bayous that feed into the Pontchartrain, to give them a little bit broader look-see at what the water quality looks like across their basin. We've just recently finished our final quarter of sampling about a week ago. Those results will be due within the next 3 to 5 days. I think they have about 10 business days to get their results back to us. We have, with the grants department and the parish staff, have submitted a update to the grants foundation, an update report, kind of briefing them on what we've done. We've just finished that and sent that in. We're in the process now of compiling the results from all of the quarterly samplings and doing an analysis to try and give a overview summary, and then finish that off in a report and get that in to the foundation.
Mr. Bob, could we get a synopsis of that report to the committee?
Sure.
Since we kind of went through here with the initial issue of the grant for that and working with it, we'd like to see what results we got from those testing. Mr. Joe, you had something?
Yeah, based on what you just said, Mr. Bob, I know originally they had some testing points, those testing point, we can have those reading, including the original ones they had. And there wasn't that many of them. I know the grant asked to increase those points, I think.
Correct. As I recall, in Ascension Parish, we've been sampling around 23 to 28 additional sites in our parish alone.
Right. So if you add, make sure that on that synopsis, have that original one in there too for us, please.
Oh, sure.
All right.
Anything else, Ken? Mr. President?
I want to say that I'm going to go back to sewer, if you don't mind. Basically, we're in the sewer business. We've invested $7 million on Highway 42. That project was supposed to cost $4 million. Okay, but with all the changes and things that had to be done, it ended up $7 million. 73, I think, is going to be rounded out at about $3.5 million. So right there, we got $10.5 million in the ground that belongs to us. And hate to say, but at this point, we pretty much subsidizing sewer to the tune of about $1 million a year. So we need to get something done. I mean, we need to turn the corner here and hopefully start making money. I don't know if that's possible with the small systems that we had. They were in such deplorable, but they were just in bad shape. And we had to put a lot of money into those. And now the private companies are actually higher than our bill is with sewer in some areas. So the cost is going to continually go up. So again, it goes back to the business plan. It goes back to looking. And the only way, I mean, I've said this 20 years ago. I'll say it again. The only way we're ever going to get in the sewer business is public-private partnership. And that we need to, I think, move on that and start cutting our losses.
All righty. Before we get to item number 15, as everyone knows, Miss Carla Bourgeois retired and moved on. I think we wished her well at our last meeting, but we'd also like to take this opportunity to welcome Ms. Kimlin in as our new secretary for this committee. Thank you for agreeing to sit in for us and take our minutes. We appreciate you.
Look forward to working with you guys.
Well, thank you, ma'am. That's right. So without further ado, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Motion by Councilman Joseph, second by Councilman Lord. We are adjourned.